Ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention, please? You are the lucky few who are here to bear witness to this crucial moment in space and time. After 4 years and 170 or so shows, Mark and Steve's abilities at hosting beer-related podcasts will ultimately come down to their performance over the next hour. Live from Hop Burns and Black in the infamous hop-growing region between Peckham Rye and East Dulwich, it's the Beer O'Clock Show.
You're listening to
the Beer O'Clock.
The Beer O'Clock Show.
You're listening to the Beer O'Clock Show.
It's Beer O'Clock, and it's the final Beer O'Clock Show, recorded live here in Dulwich, Peckham, at the beautiful Hop Burns and Black, for our 4th live show. And a big thank you to Jen and Glenn and their team for hosting us tonight. Thank you very much, guys. My name is Mark, and joining me, as always, is my beer buddy, Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
I'm okay.
Are you sure? Yeah, are you sure you're fine?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. I'm fine, mate. I'm fine.
Good. We have 2 beers to try tonight and a chat with a special little boy after the break. But the first beer is one that we did. We went all the way up to Leeds on the choo-choo train, didn't we, mate?
We did, yes.
And we went to Northern Monk, and we cut up peaches for about 2 hours.
It felt like it was peach cutting all day long, yes.
Yeah, and we brewed a little beer and called, what's it called? Because you came up with the name, and you insisted that we select it.
It was one of many names that we had, but I took a particular liking to the name Echo Peach. Which I thought just summed it up, because it's a salted peach IPA. Those of you that will know the classic 80s song Echo Beach, I thought the sea connection, I was trying my best to come up with something really exciting.
And he was willing to kind of skew the poll that we had running on Twitter just to make sure it won. But I think it won organically, right?
It won
properly.
Yeah, fairly.
Okay. So this is the beer we did with Northern Monk. It's a salted peach IPA. There are glasses going around, so if you don't have a glass yet, please raise your hand. But otherwise, let's get into it.
Let's give it a try. This is our first taste of it as well. So hoping it's really, really good, and for the time that we put into it. But cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. It tastes a little bit like peach.
It's a little bit peachy. A bit salty as well.
It's a little bit salty at the end.
What hops did we use in this? Do you remember?
No. No. They came out of a silver bag, and I enjoyed putting my hands in and playing. I think there were some New Zealand variants of hops that we used.
New Zealand variants of hops.
Yes. Do we know what peaches? Yeah, they were fresh from the market that morning.
Yeah.
Because they did come in fresh. They went out.
There were little ones that fuzzy on the outside.
Yeah. Just for a bit of clarification, the reason why we went for this style of beer is that we wanted to try and bring together a number of beers that we've enjoyed and got really excited about over the years. So those of you that have been with us from the start will remember that one of Mark's first favourite beers was Golden Glory by Badgers, which Mark often called peachy. So we wanted something that obviously had peach characteristics. Everyone will know that I'm a massive hophead and love a big IPA, so I wanted to bring that to it. And then what we also wanted to add to it was Mark's new love, which is Magic Rock Salty Kiss, and to try and bring a little bit of salt into it. So it's a bit of a bastardisation of 3 beers into one that is kind of working.
It's quite hoppy for me, but I still quite like it. Getting slight fruit in there, slight saltiness. It's quite light as well. It's got a nice bitter on the edges, though.
Yeah.
Thoughts? What do you think?
I think I'd agree. Actually, it's probably very bitter around the edge. It's got a long bitter finish. There's hints of the salt in the finish. That the peach is very subtle in there, but works quite well. It's certainly one that I'm kind of duty bound to say I'm going to drink this, and I'm going to drink lots of it as well, and I'm going to check it in on Untappd at 5 stars. Pete, it's going in at 5 stars because the brewer always checks in their beers at 5 stars, don't they? Yeah. I'm hoping there's a badge for this sort of beer as well. Yeah. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. Shall we ask our legion of fans what they think of the beer?
We have a floating microphone. If anyone wants to get on it.
Kill surprise, eh? Yeah, I think it's really well. I think you've achieved what you wanted to do. It's quite. There's some solidity up front. You've got the saltiness along with the peach, and the salt goes through to the end. It's got some dryness. I would like a bit more body to it, if I'm honest. Perhaps a bit caramel at the back, just to carry it forward. But I'm really enjoying it. I think if you're going for the salty kiss analogy, yeah, you've hit it. Spot on.
Thank you. It
Good
was
shout.
all my hard work.
Well done.
And
well done, Mark. You've done a fantastic job. Thank you. I'd like to thank Mark for this brilliant beer. Cheers, mate.
And for those of you that don't recognise that voice, that's some random bloke off Twitter, Justin Mason, who's been our most prolific guest over the last 4 years.
And obviously, you couldn't resist tonight grabbing a microphone.
And now, can someone take the microphone off of him, please? Otherwise, he's just not going to stop talking.
Any other comments? Anyone else want to? There must be someone.
Mark, what ABV does this come at?
No idea.
6.5%. It's on the board over there, mate.
Oh yeah.
Quite surprised you agreed to a high ABV beer.
I don't mind high ABV beers.
Oh, come
Unhuman
on.
Cannibal, man. As long as they don't chuck it in a barrel, I'm all right.
Oh, is there a chance this could be chucked in a barrel?
Fuck off.
Done.
Anyone else? Oh, Pete.
I'm enjoying it. It's nice. Not flat, but could do with a wee bit more carbonation, I think, for me. Also, I'm definitely getting the peach, as well as the fresh peach. Did any kind of concentrate go in? It's got a kind of slick feel to it.
Well, as far as we're aware, it was pure fresh peach.
Yeah.
Went in.
Not an unpleasant slick feel.
All the peaches went in. We cut up 2 trays of peaches, which I think in total was about 50 or 60 peaches. They all went in at the boil, and they just sat in there and just imparted their flavour into the beer.
It's peachy in every conceivable fashion.
Thank you. Anybody else? Johnny.
I'll go. It's like you salted Petit Falou, and that's bloody awesome in my book.
Brilliant. I'll take that. Yeah.
I love an awkward silence after I speak. Anyone else?
No, there was some laughter. So.
Anyone else? Oh, not the wife.
It's not a secret that I don't drink beer, I should say, but actually I quite enjoy that. I do get the peach from it. I get the salt afterwards. Because I'm a beer noob, is there a way of brewing something like this that's a bit sweeter?
I guess. Yeah.
Are there any brewers in the
Shit,
room
you're
that could help with that question?
Brewer, yeah. Is there an expert in the room? Because there isn't one on the microphones.
I'm guessing with fewer bittering.
My usual approach is to chuck more lactose into it and go that way and make because milk sugar doesn't ferment without yeast, so it will lift the sweetness. So you could make a sweeter version of it. You could probably also dial the salt down a little bit if you wanted something sort of sweet and peachy. Because I think the salt is really nice because it just cuts it off at the end, which is quite nice because it's quite I find it quite contrary to what you said. It needed more body. Was that? Yeah, so I get the opposite. It's kind of got that's a palate thing, but it's got quite a bit of body anyway. So yeah, that interesting. I like it. Can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
What was it like collaborating with Northern Monk? Because they just won like medals at the World Beer Cup and stuff like that. I mean, they're going places.
I like to think they learnt a lot. No, it was good fun though. Lovely setup they've got. They only put us on the little kit. They wouldn't let us play on the big kit, but it was good fun, wasn't it?
It was a great day out. It was, and they that they made sure that we were actively involved in everything as well. So Brian was clearly, you're going to cut up all those peaches. You want peach in it, you can cut them up. And I don't know if anybody has had experience of cutting up peaches. They're quite difficult to get the stone out of the middle of those damn things, and to have to do that and make sure that we retained the fruit was hard work. But yeah, we were involved in all of it. We every stage of the brewing. It was a great day out, and they looked after us as well. So that people would have heard us talk on the podcast before about the great facility that Northern Monk have up at the brewery there as well. And if you are in Leeds, it's definitely a place to go and visit, just to experience their tap room. The minute you walk through their door, you get a waft of hops. It's just the most amazing experience, and we're really grateful for Northern Monk for inviting us up to brew a beer with them and letting us play around on their kit and really kind of experimenting a little bit as well with what we was able to produce.
Yes, ditto. Well said. Anybody else?
Yes, Mark, Steve, you may have already mentioned this, but was this a one-off brew, or is this something that will be available to the public?
It's a one-off. I think there's a keg of it here tonight. There's a couple of kegs gone elsewhere, and there'll be a keg on at the Northern Monk tap room at some point. It is on Untapped if people want to check it in. Just saying, for those of you that like to use that particular app.
And what about rate beer? Do you know?
I don't understand those two words.
Cheers.
Unless I don't know, unless there's because the brew that they did with Little Leeds Beer House early on in the year, in the Neapolitan Pale, that was supposed to be a one-off, but it was received so well that they ended up brewing it again. That was a much bigger brew than obviously we did with them, but you never know. It might be received so well that they end up doing it again, and we might end up seeing this little beauty in cans as well. Who knows?
And if you are liking it, it is on Flag and Field here tonight. Yeah. Any final comments, Steve, on the Echo Peach?
No, I've really enjoyed it actually. Initially, it was a little bit not sure about that, but as I've got used to the flavour, I've really enjoyed the balance of the flavours in there, and I'm looking forward to drinking more of it.
Yeah, and echoing Pete's comments, there is a slight syrupy touch to it, slightly sticky, isn't it, as you go through it? It's quite nicely balanced. I would have liked it a little bit more peachy though.
Yeah, maybe a bit more peachy.
Bit more peachy.
But I got fed up cutting up all those peaches. I wouldn't have want to do any more, to be honest.
Anyway, what's up next, mate?
So we're going to do something that we've never really done before. We've done lots of interviews with people. We've had lots of people on the show over the years, and we've featured on other podcasts as well where people have asked us various questions. But we've never really done a Q&A with us. So we're going to kind of open the floor up for the next few minutes for people to ask you and I some questions about...
if we need that long.
If we need that long, because there might be no questions. For people to ask us any questions that they might want to. Shock, Justin.
We're going to pass the mic around again. So just get you to, before you ask your question, give us your name or your Twitter handle or your pseudonym or your Untapped profile, or whatever you want to do.
All of them, and blog address. And
Swear from me, really. Yeah, we're logging all of it.
Okay, Justin again, 1970s boy on Twitter. 3-part question, guys.
we don't have any seats up here, mate.
First part, there is one beer that you could wipe out from your podcast, what would it be that you'd never have again? Second part, not including this year, if there was one beer, so you got to look back a bit, that you would have reviewed that you didn't review. And the third part of the question is, what's your favourite sandwich filling?
Okay, I'm going to go with number 3 first of all, and I'm going to say bacon, which probably comes as no surprise to anybody.
Bacon.
Yeah, okay, that's good. We agree on that.
Sauce?
No, just plain. Maybe some cheese.
Ooh, controversial.
That's divided opinion there. Look at that. Bacon and cheese in a sandwich. Who would have thought? No, we're not getting into what kind of cheese or
Can we have hop onions on it?
No. Brilliant. You see what you've done. Going back to the first question about which beer would we want to wipe out from all of the beers that we've ever featured, it would be very easy to say Green King IPA, which was kind of the second beer. But at the same time, I think there's almost a bit of a rite of passage in there that you kind of, on your journey, you need to experience those sorts of beers. In terms of wiping a beer out, maybe wiping the review out would be the one that we did with, we reviewed, and I think they've changed their name now. It used to be called Bear Hug, Hibernation IPA, which I think I described as tasting like a wet dog, which is possibly not the best review I'm the proudest of. So I'd possibly like to wipe that one out.
Ooh, okay. For me, it would probably be, I think it was from the first season, it was the Melville's Craft Lager that we did.
I think the strawberry lager.
Yeah, because one, it was shit. But because the first season was me really learning about beer, and I learnt nothing from that beer. Yeah, I learned something from Green King IPA, as in I don't like these super earthy, floral-y ales. But from that one, I just didn't learn anything because it was just nothing. What was the second question?
Which beer would you have reviewed that you didn't review, but you can't include any beer that's been released in the last year? So since January.
Have we reviewed
so if you'd have gone something that, do you know what, I wish we'd done that at the time. That sort of beer.
We kind of touched on Salty Kiss when we did the Beer Nation collaboration podcast with all the other podcasters last year, but we've never actually done that as a beer in its own right. But it would probably be one. I'd probably take a variant on that, which was Magic Rock released a lime version of that back in the early days. That was absolutely stunning, which is apparently they've got no intention to ever release it again. I would have loved to have been able to have featured that on the podcast.
Have you asked Stuart nice? Have you asked them nicely?
I've tried. No
if you're
intention.
listening, please release that. That was excellent.
Yeah. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mark the Gasman. Which is your best bottle shop, number one, and which is your best tap room, brewery tap room?
Hop Burns and Black. Obviously.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't think you can argue that.
Disclose your statements with
None whatsoever. Hop Burns and Black, great bottle shop here in South London. Obviously, work with us on these live shows. The guys are always really accommodating, really helpful. I'm gonna say here, absolutely.
Yeah, and for me it would be Magic Rock, their tap room. I don't know if I've been into any other tap rooms. So that one's my favourite.
I don't want to just default to Magic Rock as being the obvious choice. It's certainly up there in terms of one of the best tap rooms in the UK. I'm also going to throw in Northern Monk Refectory as well.
Oh yeah,
because
I've been to that one too. That was nice.
Yeah, you've been there too. Because that's an incredible tap room, the feel of the place, the look of the place. And I'm also going to throw in, as a slight curveball, the Buxton Tap House as well. Just being something in a really different vibe. So I'm not going to be nailed down to one. I'm going to go for those three.
Well, I've only been to the one bottle shop and it's okay. Tap rooms still to visit.
Yeah, it's Gary at the Ale Trail on Twitter. Guys, talking about tap rooms, you need to visit Wylam Brewery in Newcastle, just recently opened. Genuinely will blow you away. If you like Magic Rock, this place will just wipe you out. It's awesome. The beers are fantastic. The vibes are great. The brewery tour, it's just like anything I've been to in the USA. Fantastic. Get yourself up north.
I'm trying. That wasn't so much a question as a
sponsored content.
Was there a disclosure in there for Wylam or?
This podcast is brought to you by.
So no, it wasn't a question. Sorry, but yeah.
Would you like to go to Wylam?
Yeah, would you like? Of course, we would love to see you up there. I think your number one fan, Miles, who unfortunately couldn't make it today, sends his love. but he would like to see you guys up there eventually. You know, when you get some time to travel up, and I would as well.
Okay, well, I'm going to announce this exclusively tonight. Then Mark doesn't know this. That obviously we're going our separate ways, so I'm going to just kind of do what I want after tonight. To be fair, so. You know that we always do a Crimbo crawl. We're talking to Miles about doing the Crimbo crawl in Newcastle. So it'll be first weekend of December. If anybody wants to get themselves up there, we'll be working on the route over the summer, and we'll be announcing something in September. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. Happy?
Very happy, yeah. If anybody's on Twitter, you just need to do a search for hashtag Capital of Craft, and you will find San Diego or Newcastle upon Tyne.
Hi guys, this is Matt Curtis, Total Curtis on Twitter. You've had a lot of guests, very different guests on the show over the last couple of years. Who have been your favourites?
Well, it's difficult. They're all wonderful, and so many of them are here tonight.
Is anyone here not a guest that's been on the show? I mean, more like, who gave you something you didn't expect? What, like, you've had some really interesting characters.
For me, it would be John Keeling from Fuller's that we spent almost 3 hours with.
Yeah.
Going through basically almost their entire range.
Yeah.
And I didn't say anything because I was just listening to him talk for 3 hours solid about beer and about the history of Fuller's and everything. It was just really fascinating.
Yes, I enjoyed the John Keelan episode, probably much in that same vein of being able to sit back and do nothing. I really enjoyed the show that we did with Colin Strong from Buxton last year, where we just literally threw in a few questions and let him speak, and away he went. Also really enjoyed, from the point of view of people that we've had on as interviewees, Paul from Cloudwater as well, who I could have just listened to for days and days and days.
Is there anyone you would have liked to interview that you never got to get on the show?
Absolutely, yeah. I tried many times to get Rich Burhouse from Magic Rock on, and he absolutely refused every time. Not because he didn't want to be on the show, just because that's not his sort of thing. And the one time that I thought I had him nailed down, I ended up talking to Duncan and Stu instead, because Rich was suddenly very busy at that point. So I would have loved to have sat down and had a conversation with Rich.
Hi, Andy Tavamatu. Excuse my sore throat. I remember, like, God, when did you guys start? 2012. When you guys followed me on Twitter, and I followed you back, and I listened to the early shows and thought, well, that's really nice. These guys Mark's learning about beer. This is a good little podcast. Looking now where you've, look at this here tonight. What's been your biggest kind of pinch yourself moment along the way, where you think, bloody hell, we actually did something and we, achieved something with our podcast?
I think it may have been either the first lock-in that we did, which is a little YouTube gathering for people who haven't seen it, which was quite interesting, or the London Crimbo crawl we did, where we ended up with a trail of dozens of people following us from bar to bar, and it's like, what the fuck are these people following us for?
The Pied Pipers of beer, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I just turned around at one point. I think we're in what's the brew pub that we're in at Islington that had the brewery inside? I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, Brewhouse and Kitchen, yeah.
Yeah, and we're in there and turned around, and it's like full of people that had just suddenly turned up. It's like, oops. That was great for me.
Yeah, I think I'm probably going to go along those sorts of lines. It's kind of been these live gatherings for me, where we've brought people together, and we've kind of created this little community around what we do. And for me, I suppose one of the biggest things is most of the people in this room now are people that I call friends, and that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for this podcast. So for me, it's been probably a little bit more personal than that. But just the fact that people actually listen to this shit. It's just what is that all about?
Yeah, and I'd like to thank all of them for being here tonight.
Yeah, and for downloading it a number of times. Yeah. I think we've got...
Yes, Michael Lally, Bushcraft Beer, at Bushcraft Beer, on Twitter. And also, I featured you guys on episode 5 of my podcast, if you haven't already heard it.
Don't fall over that plug on the floor.
Which was a real privilege. And I think for those that have listened, I expressed my, I guess, admiration for what you've done and kind of the contribution you guys have made and how you've inspired a lot of other bloggers and podcasters. And I think, Stephen, you and I were just talking earlier around how many different podcasts, beer podcasts there are out there now. But the question I had more specifically was, since you've announced your retirement, so to speak, of the Beer O'Clock Show podcast, how have you, felt about the reaction that you've had to that? I mean, there's been some outpouring of grief almost. How does that make you, how do you guys respond to that?
Mainly indifferent. No, not really. You asked me that a little bit earlier, and thanks for the preparation, Michael. No, it's been really nice, but what's been really surprising is the number of people who I don't know, who haven't interacted with before, sending me messages, and it's like, why haven't you told me that you listened before? That it's really nice meeting new people at the point where I'm leaving. So it's always the way, isn't it?
I was really humbled by it on the day that we made the announcement. I don't think there wasn't anybody that was expecting us to come out with that, and I was on my way to Leeds, and my phone was just going nuts with notifications, and I was really surprised at the reaction of that, and that surprise has continued as well over the last few weeks, where in the build up to tonight and to the last show and to us finishing this. And also, when I stand here and look in this room tonight, we've got a load of people here that are local as well. That there are people in this room tonight that have come here from Somerset and Newcastle to say goodbye to us, and to me that's like, really, it's like we just do this thing where we drink beer and we talk about it, and but people are buying into that. So yeah, I mean the reaction has been really, really humbling, and it's sad to see it go, but there's stuff to come in the future, so hopefully people will continue along and buy into that as well.
Great. Well, I think you've definitely inspired me. I'm sure you've inspired a lot of other people, bloggers, podcasters, whatever, in this room and beyond. So I guess on behalf of all those people, just want to say a big thanks. So cheers.
Cheers, Michael. Thank you.
One question from me. My name's Nick. I'm from Shark for Chip Drink. I'm relatively new to the...
There you are.
Hello. I'm relatively new to the London scene, and you guys have sort of been one of the couple of guys who I've followed to get a grasp of what's going on. And obviously this decision didn't happen at the end of your last recording, and you just thought, let's throw it in. What was the point, and what was it that made you go, this is the time to bow out?
It was about 3 years ago.
After that green.
I don't know. It's kind of been boiling under the surface for a little while. I'm not big on structure, and Steve is big on structure. So it got to the point where I don't know. I think at this stage it was just time for me to stop doing a podcast for the point of doing a podcast. In my view, I still love doing it. But it gets to a point where I don't know. I don't really understand. It was a couple of months ago, especially when I was in Australia. We had a break from it, and it's like, well, I'm quite enjoying not doing that. But then we came back and we started doing this season again. It's been really fun. So fuck.
How was that conversation go? Because it's like sitting down with your resignation letter with you.
I sent him a text.
Dumb.
Because unfortunately we don't talk face to face that much, and I wanted to let him know before we started recording the next season. So it was just a text, and Steve wasn't that surprised. I think you were surprised it lasted 6 months.
I'm surprised it lasted 4 years, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So it was pretty easy. Steve's a quite understanding chap. He's quite sad as well, isn't you, buddy?
Yeah, a little bit.
No. I don't know what else to say.
I think, yeah, no, I didn't. I wasn't surprised when I got a text from Mark. But I think that at the same time, it tied into a time where we had just planned this series of shows that had guests on, that people that have listened to the show over the last 4 years, and a lot of people have commented that that's actually been a really nice send off for the show as well. It's almost been the perfect send off to have had people on that have engaged with the show and they've spoken with us, and for us that's just been perfect, and tonight's just really the culmination of that. And he's not going far. He's still gonna do the flavour of the month shows as well, and we're still gonna do those. So, but apparently I'm gonna be hosting those now because he's just gonna sit back and drink the beer. So I'm gonna find out how hard it actually is to be in his chair.
Oh yeah.
I'm Lou at Lou on Brew. What are you going to miss most about doing the podcast together, and what will you be glad to see the back of? And don't say each other. Please don't say each other.
You're probably going to miss me saying opinions.
No, I'm not going to miss that at all.
You're going to miss the Mark quotes, though, aren't you?
Everyone's going to miss the Mark quotes. That's not just me. That's people are going to miss those.
I'm not going to miss the IPAs, like the really shittily hopped IPAs, and the barrel aged shit that you make me drink. What are you going to miss, Steve?
I'm going to miss getting pissed on a Monday night. That's for me. It's kind of it's a routine that we've got into over the last 4 years. Not necessarily getting pissed, but just doing this thing on a Monday night. Now Mondays are shit. We know that, and it's nice to have something to go to on a Monday evening where you can just step back from that a little bit. So I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss the interaction with Mark as well, because he is the polar opposite of me as well, and I think that's what works so well about this thing that we do, is that we are completely opposite. So it's it's going to be strange not doing it, but at the same time kind of still doing it. What was the second part? Sorry.
Say what you won't miss.
I don't think there's anything that I'll miss. It's a lot of hard work doing the social side of things after we've recorded the show, kind of scheduling all the social media stuff that goes around it, but that's probably still going to happen anyway. So no, I don't think that there's anything that I will miss about it. Maybe Mark. Maybe that's what I should have said. Yeah, I'm going to miss Mark. Okay. Sorry.
Will you miss the free beers being sent to you? Opinions.
No, because that's probably still going to happen. We covered this a few weeks ago in quite some detail in terms of us getting beer gifted and given to us. That's not simply as a result of the podcast. Some of that is because I'm a member of the British Guild of Beer Writers as well, and my name appears in that handbook that goes out to people, and they send you beer. That's as simple as it is. You know, so it's not that I'm going to miss it. I might miss some of the beers that I get sent, because they're normally the ones I kind of pass off to Mark, the ones that I don't want to drink. But if anybody has ever, well, nobody has, but if you ever, you should get the opportunity to get to sit where I sit on a Monday evening, to see Mark's recording room and the thousands of bottles that he's got stockpiled behind where he records. I'd say I'm going to guess that Mark doesn't always drink the beers that I pass on to him.
There's only about 20 behind me. I don't drink beer fast enough to get through the stuff that gets sent to me, so I'm going to quite look forward to not getting beer sent to me, but only for a little while.
When you guys started, the concept was kind of like you were that Steve was the mentor of Mark. I wondered if, Steve, you could say one thing that you would want Mark to have taken away from this, and Mark, what's the one thing you have taken away from it?
A greater understanding of beer and the flavours that it can bring. Because I think when we started, Mark was very much a lager drinker, occasionally, mostly Coke Zero, I think was your favourite drink. So for me, it would be, hopefully he's taken away not just the flavour, but the range and the variety that is available in beer, and that actually not everything has to be massively hopped or barrel aged. That actually there are some really good low ABV beers out there. So that's kind of what I'm hoping he'll take away.
I think what I've taken away is, one is the wide variety of beers and styles that are out there, but mostly the passion that brewers bring to the beers. I mean, the brewery scene isn't filled with millionaires. I know there's a few millionaires. But they're not making huge chunks of money, but they're really passionate about making beer that people want to drink, and they're not all really wanting to make the super wanky stuff all the time. They want beers that people can just enjoy. And seeing you just can look at the shelves and see the variety of beers. I had no idea this many styles of beers existed when I started doing the podcast. I thought there were, the real ales, there was lagers, and there was the black stuff. And that's all. And, there's saisons as well that I discovered. So.
And when are you going to like saison, Steve?
Soon. Hopefully. There's one in my fridge that is still waiting to be drunk.
Some of them age well, don't worry.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Clayton here, Clayfish on Twitter. Have you got a favourite Mark quote or best reaction to a beer?
I don't know if there's a single favourite one. I did kind of enjoy some of the early stuff where beer tasted like colours, which was fun, and the really early stuff where beer tasted like beer. Which was great. I think the best reaction ever to a beer has probably, and it's probably still one of the more recent ones, was the reaction to the Neapolitan Pale Ale that we drank from Northern Monk and Little Leeds, where it was just literally for both of us, it was a fuck me moment. What the hell are we drinking here right now?
I don't have to pick one, right?
You don't have to pick your own quote, do you? No. Was there any more questions from the room? Because if not, there's one that I want to ask that we got asked on Twitter earlier, which I think is quite a good one.
I think my wife's one was quite important as well. Carling or Foster's?
Yeah, I told her to get out
There you go.
at that point. So the one question that we had from Twitter, most of the other ones have been covered this evening, and it's only fair to read this one out because it's from Miles, and those of you that will know he's our number one fan as well. So if you could put a star in a reasonably priced bar, who would it be and where would you take them? So I'm going to ask you that first. Any star, any bar, who and where?
Shit, I don't know. Probably Drew Barrymore somewhere cheap so I can get her tipsy.
So there's a final Mark quote for the ages, right there, with his wife. So obviously an audio podcast. If you see Mark's wife's face right now, it would.
She knows me and Drew.
Yeah,
it's all right.
yeah. I'd say I did think about this, and now mine just sounds so twee compared to what you've just said there. Mine would be Dave Grohl, because it was due to it was largely due to that man that Mark and I met in the first place in a queue for a gig, and I would obviously put him in any bar serving Cannonball. Just so that I could share the how excellent that beer tastes and how wonderful it is.
And then get him tipsy.
Oh, yeah. You know it.
Right, well, I think that's it. And just before the break, we got a little bit of news. Well, you do.
Well, yeah. Obviously, I've said it a couple of times tonight. I'm not finishing this. I'm not ready to finish it. I'm just getting into my prime. So we're still gonna I'm still gonna be putting out a new podcast coming in September. It's still going to be under the umbrella, I suppose, of the Beer O'Clock Show, but it'll be kind of a new program that we'll be putting out. Probably comes as no surprise to people that the new show is going to be called Opinions, not Hop Onions. Not Hop Onions, although it's much easier to say than Opinions. So that's going to be the new show. And actually, the format of the new show is going to be slightly different from what we do on the Beer O'Clock show. At the moment, our focus is very much around the beer that we're reviewing each week. So we have a feature beer, we talk about that, and we talk about other bits around it. Going to flip that on its head a little bit, and the focus of the show will be the opinions discussion that we've been putting out on Twitter. We get a lot of good engagement through those polls. We'll be having discussions around that. We'll be talking about the latest news, blogs, and other things that's going on in the beer world. We'll still be drinking beer, but that'll be more kind of in the background than up front. And obviously, I'm using the words we because I'm not doing this on my own. I do have a new co-host. Some people are pointing around the room. Obviously, the new co-host is in the room tonight because that would just be stupid if they weren't. So I'd like to introduce Martin Oates, everybody, who is in the middle of the room. He's on Twitter. You can find him at Beer is the Answer on Twitter. Martin and I we've actually already recorded a pilot episode.
I'm not even dead yet.
I know you're not even dead yet, and I know you stood there, and this is like the most uncomfortable thing I've ever had to do. So the new show will be out at the beginning of September. I think we've scheduled for it to come out on Friday the 2nd of September. You bear in mind it is a pilot episode, so it's a little bit rough and ready around the edges, but we'll be honing it over the next few months. It's going to be fortnightly to start off with, and we'll see where we take it from there. So hopefully you guys will engage in that as much as you have done with Mark and I. There's a few people that have had a little listen to it as a bit of a preview, and I think somebody's commented that it's like the Beer O'Clock show is grown up. So if you take what we've done, as a chat show,
who said that?
I'm not telling you who said it. If you take what we've done as a chat show, Opinions basically is a bit more of a documentary. So we'll dig a little bit more into the beer. So again, folks, if you can just welcome Martin as the new co-host.
We're going to take a little bit of a break, and then after the break, we got Elusive Brewing, and we have Andy.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention and your sympathy, please? I'm still reeling from the announcement of the new show host. Sadly, it was not me. However, this show must go on. Welcome back to Hot Burns and Black and the second half of the Beer O'Clock show.
Thank you very much. Welcome back to part 2. We're joined by the little lad that I mentioned earlier in the show. He's a joy, is Andy. It's Andy from Elusive Brewing.
Good evening.
Hello, mate. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So Andy's joining us because we have 2 beers. Well, it's 1 beer, 2 versions. We have a cask version and a keg version of Starship Fleet Wave 2, which Andy's going to tell us all about. And we're going to have a tasting of them both kind of together. But which one are we doing first? We're doing the cask first.
I think we're going to go with the cask first, yeah. Should we get straight into the beer before we talk about it, or do you want to talk about it first, Andy?
A little bit of background to this beer,
Go on,
maybe. So this beer is one of our core beers, and it's brewed for local people. So this is our English Pale Ale, best bitter, maybe. That I brew locally for cask only, and I vow to never keg it, I vow to never bottle it. Both are available here tonight. So damn you, Steve and Mark, you've broken me. I won't talk about the recipe yet. Maybe let's just say that obviously Beer O'Clock Show came down and collaborated with me on this one, and Steve spent most of the day mopping up wort from my leaky wort pump. So yeah, he earned his wage that day.
How did he mop it up?
The squeegee. But yeah, let's get straight into the cask version, which is the tumbler.
Cheers all.
All right, cheers.
Cheers,
Cheers. For an English bitter, that's really nice.
Thanks.
It's quite light. Nice malt bedding on it. Not too bitter. So what hops did you put in this? We've got it written down.
So here's the other thing that I vowed to never do, which is to put like sexy aroma hops in the best bitter. So
so that may have been my influence on
the
this beer
hops
a little bit.
It's actually all Kiwi hops. It's kind of a nod to our hosts this evening, Jen and Glenn. So there's Nelson Sauvin, there's Motueka, and Southern Cross. Now, good luck to anyone trying to pick them out. You might have a bit more luck with the keg version. Interestingly, earlier, when the cask was a little bit colder and had some carbonation to it, is that they were decanted into growlers to bring up here. There was definitely had the hop aroma of Nelson, but it's pretty hard to pick out. I don't know what people are getting. I mean, the beer, like English Pale Ale or Best Bitter as a style, is sorry, it's not a hop forward style. It's kind of a malt / yeast. So on the yeast, on the nose, you'll get the kind of the fruity esters. The malt is generally a little bit crystal for sweetness and body. So it's not a hop forward style. So don't expect despite Nelson Sauvin. Yeah, it's kind of hard to pick that out. I don't know what people think and what they're getting from it.
Despite my best efforts to make it hop forward when I was at the brewery.
Yeah, that yeast will just kill everything. And
needs more hops.
It's an English beer. Damn you! It's an English beer for English people, local English people. So, any thoughts on the cask version?
I'm going to go. I'm going to lead in. Hey, still partly my show, so I get to run things. I really enjoyed it, actually, using the phrase enjoyed because I've drained my glass. It's very drinkable. It's very light on the flavours. It's got quite a woody, earthy finish to it that balances out quite well. And yeah, I think, as you say, if you had drunk this fresh from a cask, it would have maybe brought a lot more to it, but obviously, yeah, as you say, you've decanted it into growlers and brought it down here tonight, but it's still an incredible beer in there and still one that's really, really drinkable. Thank you.
Any comments from the audience? Is there a microphone?
Yeah, I think the beer is excellent. It's got a lovely orange blossom overtone to it. The colour's excellent. I guess that's the non-vegan content.
Yeah, but, this one is fine. It's hard to shift cask locally without it being super bright. So yeah, this one's fine.
I think it is quite bitter actually. It's great. It reminds me a little bit of Manchester Marble bitter, which is for me my favourite standard bitter in the UK. So if you're matching that, then I think you're way ahead of the game. So excellent job.
Cheers.
Justin.
Why do people laugh every time I grab them? Do you know what? I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't what I was expecting from you. But I had a sip, and then I've downed my glass. I must admit, it works really well as a throw it back down your throat. What's the ABV on that?
4.2. So it's very much a beer designed to drink 3 or 4 pints of in a session. It's kind of a cask ale.
I could see myself easily doing that. And so if that's what you've gone for, it really achieves. Again, echo the orange blossom. It's very well rounded. The malt is very malt forward. You've done well there, mate. Cheers.
Thank you.
Steve, did you say growler in the place which sells flagons?
No, I said flagon.
I was just checking.
Yeah, no, just slip there. Flagons of this beer were brought here tonight. Sorry.
That's what I thought you said.
Yeah.
This new show is going to be great, by the way. So, Andy, I think Motueka is known for its kind of limey citrus flavors. I think that really comes out. So, different to what I was expecting. Quite kind of lively and citrusy, and really quite tasty. So, yeah, well done.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that all the flavors that in the hop. So, Southern Cross is actually an English heritage hop that's got a little bit of that Fuggles earthiness to it. Nelson Sauvin's obviously a very, gooseberry white wine here. Motueka, as you say, lime, citrus, and I think all the elements are there, but they're just subdued. And that's, for me, is a kind of a side effect of the style with the malt that you use with some crystal malt and the yeast, which it gives, the yeast gives fruity esters, so it kind of dials the hops right back in a way. So I think, everything's there, but it's just subdued. It would have been interesting to take the same wort and ferment half of it with American ale yeast and see how different they are. But yeah, it wasn't really what we set out to do with this, but we found to do that.
Right, shall we get onto the keg version? If I can find my glass.
So the first, I guess, observation is it is pretty bright. If you might have some condensation on your glass. It's fairly bright, but it's not as crystal clear as the cask version. So yeah, this one's unfined. The yeast is known for being actually very flocculent. Flocculation being the process of the yeast clumping together and pulling the proteins out. But
oh, it's dead flocculent, mate.
In 4 years of the show, we've never heard that word. In the last 6 weeks, we've heard it on pretty much every show. Is it a new word, or is it that just people are using it a lot more?
So it's colder and fizzier, but anything else? Anyone kind of getting that they weren't getting in the cask
I'm
version?
loving that it's colder and fizzier. It's doing it. It's doing it for me. It just amplifies the flavours a little bit for me as well. You get a lot more of the citrus and the lime on the finish. I think in particular for me on this version.
And I'm finding
Andy, making a bit of a noise over here. Did you expect one to come out bigger than the other, as in flavour profile?
Yeah, actually, I thought the cask would be much better, and tasting it earlier, colder and with a bit more carbonation. It had that Nelson aroma to it. But I've never, you should never keg a best bitter, right? I mean, it's an interesting experiment for me, and interestingly, now I'm tasting them side by side as you guys are now. I think the carbonation is lifting the aromas a bit more for me, and it's bringing a bit more to the palate too.
Yeah, see, I would agree with that. I think we're all probably thinking the same thing, but you were saying earlier, but that wasn't saying you weren't intending to keg when you first started out. So what prompted you?
This guy to my left, Steve. So this is actually Martin and Michelle. You tried the first version. It's a cask one at Bracknell.
Yes,
it did win beer of the festival, by the way. Hello.
Yes,
yeah.
we voted. We voted more than once.
And it was. This is the same recipe. As I said, it's designed for cask only. Not really. I mean, that used Target and Summer. So Target, very English, hop, a little bit citrusy. Summer for a little bit of fruitiness, but basically a malt and yeast-led beer. So this is exactly the same recipe, just with different hops.
What do you guys prefer, cask or keg on this one?
Steve?
Keg. Unsurprisingly, probably.
I'm liking the keg because it's lifting the hop bitterness up a bit more, and the twiggy marmalade from the cask is lower, I think.
That being said, though, I'd love to try it fresh on cask. Yeah. So that, as I said earlier, that you posted a picture earlier of a pint of it fresh, and it looked really inviting and it looked really stunning, and I'd love to give it a go like that.
Served through a sparkler.
Say that out loud.
Yeah. So I was just gonna say, I could tell what the cask version had. If it was a little bit colder, served fresh through a sparkler.
Oh, the Northerners are in it.
Yeah, one of the best pubs in Newcastle, the Free Trade Inn, refuses to use a sparkler. So my wife here, at DassyGirl1 on Twitter, she carries a sparkler in her handbag. But for me, I can just tell what the cask is capable of, and the keg is a good experiment, but it would need dry hopping with a Nelson Sauvin just to make it.
Yeah,
sing,
just to lift the aroma, and I would probably fall on my sword if I dry hopped to best bitter.
Yeah,
with Nelson.
There's nothing wrong with doing that. It's all about experimentation and the flavours,
true,
of course.
yeah.
But yeah, it's a great beer. Yeah.
So the hops were left over from Lord Nelson that we made a single hop saison. There's some in the fridge, I think, or there's some on the shelf.
There's some on the shelf.
You want to try that one? So yeah, a very very hop forward beer. this is not hop forward beer. But it wasn't designed to be, and it is what it is. An English pale ale, best bitter, and it's an interesting experiment, cask versus keg.
Yeah, a good experiment, and I think a lot more breweries should try it actually. Using a traditional method, traditional beer, traditional bitter, and then just see what happens through keg. With camera and the new revitalization project, it might be interesting just to see what happens.
Yeah, and this is real ale in keg. It's naturally conditioned. So
okay. Yeah.
Camera
so you were
approved.
there before Brewdog.
Is it live? Cask beer.
Sorry, that's a trademark, and I can't comment anymore on this.
I think we have a comment over here.
John from the Craft Beer Channel. I just want to say, in the break, I was drinking a rather beautiful hopped East Coast IPA that I may have had a hand in. But I just want to say that both of those, people talk about boring brown bitters or talk about sort of bland cask ale as being a bit of a scourge in the UK. Having drunk something hugely hop forward, to go to that, the flavours, they're completely different, but they're just as bold. I think it's a really beautiful bitter on both. I'd actually probably choose a fresh cask over the keg that I just drank, but both of them are beautiful.
Cheers.
Just why we've got Andy up here, because over the years that we've done this show, other than Justin, who we've already identified as being a serial guest, the second most featured guest on the show has been Andy. He's been on only 2 times less than Justin, and that's going right back to when Andy was homebrewing, and he shared some of his homebrews with the show, and he's done some special one-offs for the show as well. And it's for us, it's really a great moment to be stood here with him, as he's now actually the owner of a brewery that's producing some commercial beer that's being really well received around the country as well, certainly where it's available. I know you've already got capacity issues and demand issues. And I'd like to invite people just to ask Andy any questions that they might have about either the process that he's been through, not any questions, either the process that he's been through, or about Elusive Brewing, or where he's going next with the brewery.
Andy, yeah. Obviously, everybody knows about this hashtag hop shortage, supposedly. How is it affecting a new brewery onto the scene?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. It's pretty difficult. I mean, I've been picking up odds and ends on the spot market, like stuff that's not contracted. Also been leaning on other breweries that have helped me a lot. And I should probably... someone mentioned Brewdog. Lord Nelson would not exist without Brewdog. The first hop story came from them. When we rebrewed it came from Williams Brothers. And there's like kind of these bigger breweries looking after smaller breweries that have got big contracts. For me, 5-10 kilos is loads. To Brewdog, it's not a lot. And they're helping other people out.
As a home brewer, I would like to say thanks to Brewdog as well, because they give me a good 20-30 grams of Nelson Sauvin, which helped me out as well. So.
But I mean, more broadly, it is difficult. I think that some of the more successful, bigger craft breweries are getting bigger. As we know, you look around, some of the good guys are expanding. And good luck to them, well done. But obviously, their hop contracts step up a bit, and they contract more, and it gets more difficult for us to get a foot in. So yeah, it's a good question, and it's more. When I started Elusive, it was I designed a few recipes that weren't as hop forward. This being one, this is very much a local cask ale, but looking at mild, looking at stouts, looking at porters, trying to not be so focused on hops, and looking at what else we can do with beer in terms of yeast and malt. So that's, I guess, has influenced my direction with Elusive Brewing.
We had Michael down there as well as Matt.
Hi Andy, it's Michael. Just wanted to have a quick chat about your branding. I think that it's kind of got this 8-bit video game inspired look and feel, which kind of relates to, I guess, me and maybe my generation. Not wanting to give away my age or anything, but just keen on kind of your views on how you came up with that and kind of why that kind of inspires you and what that says about kind of the beers.
Yeah, good question. So you mentioned our age, Michael. I think, yeah, there was a little bit of
30-something.
A little bit of appealing to that generation, our generation. I'm way older than you, but I'm reining you in here. You know, something that, I mean, maybe it's a misspent youth. You know, just playing video games hours on end. The other thing that was interesting about it was beer names. I saw a lot of, you know, tittle-tattle, people bickering about names, and with video games there's an endless supply of companies that I guess don't exist anymore that I'm going to come after you, that you can pick, you know, a game from, well, I hope not, pick a name from a 30-year-old video game and you're pretty safe with that. Plus it's good fun. It's, the idea behind the brand was, it's a friend of mine, Kerry Jones, who did it, and he wanted to just use pixel art across everything. And I think we got 3 beers in the shop today, and the Starship fleet's somewhere lurking, so there might be 4, I don't know, but yeah, it's all kind of pixel art, and I picked a theme from my favourite video games. The Starship fleet is from Arcadians, which is an old Acorn soft game on Acorn Electron, and it's the mothership from that. What else? Lord Nelson was just obviously Admiral Lord Nelson. Yeah, obviously we've got the politically inspired Plan B, which kind of looks like a blonde MP guy that I don't know.
Yeah,
but I
mixed
mean,
with Terminator.
There was obviously no intent behind that, and if it's purely coincidental, it looks like him and kind of a hybrid Terminator guy. But obviously, the part of the brand was fun and just having a lot of fun with different colours and something that stands out a little bit. I mean, look across the shelf here right now. I mean, it's a busy market and anything that you can do as a startup brewery to kind of make you stand out on a shelf full of what are some awesome beers, it's going to help.
Yeah, agree. Thank you. Cheers.
Hi, Andy. Matt Curtis, Total Curtis. Andy, when I first met you, which would have been about 4 or 5 years ago, you were an avid home brewer, and now you are a professional brewer with his own brewery, which is a massive step. And I know that making the leap is difficult, but what was the straw that broke the camel's back? What was the thing that made you think, fuck it, I'm going to be a brewer?
Yeah. Damn you, Matt, that's a really hard question to answer. I think ultimately it was my wife, Jane, who said, look, if you don't do this, you know, you're never going to do it. Please do it and get on with it. And it took us a while to get, you know, financially organised that we could afford to do it. I suppose the biggest thing that made me think, yeah, we've got this and we could do this, was going back to my 40th birthday. Actually, Justin was there. We were over at Urban Sessions over in Hackney, and I walked into there. It was my 40th birthday, 26th of July, 19 or 20, of course, to 2000 and something. And I walked in and I saw my beer on the bar, and the beer was actually a beer called Nelson Saison that we brewed with Weirdbeard back in 2013. And it was a homebrew recipe that Greg Weirdbeard really liked. Brian hates Saisons, by the way, hates all things Belgian. But Greg really liked this beer, and he managed to convince Brian to brew it. And I walked in this bar on my 40th birthday, and the bar, I said, I'll have half the Nelson Saison. And the barman said, oh, there's a great story behind this beer. I'm like, oh, really? He said, yeah, so this is actually a homebrew recipe that Greg, the guy at Weirdbeard, really liked, and they brewed it, and it really turned out really well. It's my favourite beer on the bar. And I'm like, well, thank you. That's my beer. And obviously he said, well, happy birthday, and it's on the house, and it was great. And it was that moment I thought, well, actually, it was, you know, maybe I can design a recipe and come up with a good beer. And that was, for me, and that, although it was a long time ago, was, I guess, a real tipping point. The other one would be the Craft Beer Co competition. I was fortunate enough to win, which was the National Homebrew Awards, they called it. And the prize was to brew with Dark Star. And that beer was everywhere, and that was awesome. And it was the American Red, which is now our Level Up, which is our second core beer, which is hop forward in style. But yeah, that was, I guess, another tipping point. But yeah, it's a good question.
Well, congratulations, and here's to many years of success.
Thank you. Yeah.
Do we have any more comments, Martin?
Andy, read your early blogs about setting up the brewery, and there was a lot of not brewing beer involved in setting up your brewery. What kept you going through that? Because it seemed like a hell of a lot of hard work and non-brewing, non-beer stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the premises were pretty hard to come by. We went through 3 different premises, and we'd reached the point of agreeing leases on all of them. Yeah, just pig-headed determination, wanting to do it. But the very I've had a lot of help from other breweries. Weird Beer being probably the biggest that have helped me. But there was a guy, there's a brewery called Surrey Hills. The head brewer there, owner, is called Ross, and I went around there, quite local to me, and I said, "Well, got any advice for me for opening a brewery?" He said, "Yeah, don't." I said, "Why'd you say that?" He said, "Well, why do you want to open one?" And we had a whole debate about it. And at the end, he said, "Well, yeah, I think you might be able to do it, Andy." You know, it's more kind of a, you know, it's pretty bloody hard to open a brewery. A lot of admin, red tape, premises, everything else. And his point was more that if you want to do it, you really got to want to do it, because it takes forever, and it's pretty difficult. So I guess it was just determination and wanting to do it that much.
I mean, we're all very pleased that you did it, but you can't have anticipated it would take that much work just to brew beer commercially, surely.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, I knew it was going to be difficult, but yeah, it took a lot longer than we thought, mostly because of premises. And once we got the keys, we were brewing within 2 months, so it didn't take that long. But it gave me more time to prepare and tinker about at home with recipes and stuff. So. And
what are the plans for the future?
Well, right now, the demand's been really good, and I'm really thrilled about that. So the plan is to get a bit bigger. We're 5 barrel, 800 litres. We've only got 2 FVs, so we can't brew that often, and we need to brew more often based on the demand I'm getting at the moment. So the plans are to get bigger and hopefully hire an assistant brewer. I'm getting old, you know. My knees hurt.
So if you weren't here, you'd be brewing?
Say again?
If you weren't here, you'd be brewing beer?
We can't brew that often.
No. You're here and not brewing beer. Just stop talking to us and brew beer. We want to drink it.
Got any tanks, Martin? Give us a lead.
If I had, we would.
Have you got a railway arch somewhere there?
I would sell it to you.
Andy, I know it's probably early days, but have you thought ahead? 2 or 3 years. Obviously, you want to get another FV, and then another FV, and then maybe another FV. But your styles of beers, some of the new breweries have just come in straight in with IPAs, double IPAs, sours. But you've done the traditional route. You've gone in with bitters that you can sell, which I think is a sensible idea. So you can start your baseline and then kind of move on. But have you thought about that future? Are you looking at a crazy triple IPA, 12% bastard Brett, great huge keg?
Yeah, I think it's another good question. But we actually tried to find the balance between both. So this beer is the most traditional one we do. We also do smoked mild. Smoke's not that traditional, but beyond that, we do brew more wild and wacky things like a single hop Nelson Saison, a wit beer with Thai food ingredients. So it was trying to find a balance between beer I can sell locally and beer that will appeal to guys like you, maybe that want to try something that's more flavoursome and more bold. In terms of the future, hop contracts aside, I would like to. We don't do an IPA. We don't do an American Pale Ale. I mean, and that's a very conscious thing because look on the shelf here, look at Colonel, look at other people like that. Why try and compete with that? I can't compete with that. But what I can do is, look at my local market, what my local market needs, and try and brew maybe the odd thing which pushes me in that direction. But I want to brew beer that I'm really proud of. That when I give to guys like you, you're going to go, well, actually, yeah, it's got that wow factor.
One question that might put you on the spot: as a new brewer yourself, can you remember any new breweries in the UK in the last sort of 2-3 years which really stood out and which kind of really you thought, I need to do this?
There's some obvious answers there.
You're quite near Siren, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when going to talk to Darren Hanley, the owner of Siren, before he started, and seeing what they were doing was pretty exciting. Obviously, it was a bigger project, a bigger budget, bigger brew kit. Brewers that have inspired me would be people like Pressure Drop, who... God, when did they start? Peter will know. 2012, yeah. That started out same size as me, a 5-barrel, the same kind of kit, and they've done really well and done phenomenally well. So I've come into this. We've gone into it very consciously at a small size without raising any money. Like, it's all our own money that's gone into it. Plan, because I'm very risk averse, and that's why I took my wife to actually say, "God's sake, get on with it." But just to grow organically. The other brewery that's just has really one that I've met the guys back in 2011 or 12. Summer Wine up in Honley near Huddersfield, just phenomenal. All, in fact, Jen and Glenn were up at their tap room last week, and it's all you've been there, and that's all. They've done it all themselves. And when you went to the brewery, at least until recently, the original homebrew kit was above the door. And it was a kind of a bathtub and a hot water boiler, and to see where they've got to and where they're going to is phenomenal.
Yeah, I would second that. Summer Wine, I was lucky enough to head up there last weekend, where we had a couple of sunny days in Yorkshire, and believe me, if you guys or anybody who's listening gets a chance to head up to Honley, it's a 8-minute ride, I think, on the train from Huddersfield. Fantastic tap room. I want a free beer with you guys if you're listening.
Disclosure.
We were just going to... hello, it's Jen from Hot Burns and Black here. We're just going to second that. We had a fantastic time at the Summer Wine Tap Room. Brand new, obviously, and just what we loved about these guys is they've done everything at their own pace. They've done this themselves. I think they pretty much built the entire thing themselves, and it is just, I wish them all the success in the world, because it's going to be a fantastic place. Definitely a good spot on the cycle trail.
Cool. Okay, well, I think that's all we've got time for tonight, so we're going to wind this up. Thank you very much, Andy, for the beers, and thank you very much for coming down and joining us for our last show.
Pleasure to be
absolute
here.
Pleasure seeing you blossom into the commercial brewer that you are.
I still feel like a home brewer that's gate crashing a party, which is... I don't think I'll ever get over that, but it's still good fun.
Right, so we're going to wind up, Steve, I think, aren't we?
We are indeed, yes. Just to say that obviously Andy's brewed this beer with us, especially for tonight. There are bottles available of it, but they are fairly limited in quantity. There are some here tonight. They're actual commemorative bottles as well, because Andy took some time unexpectedly as well to put some lovely words on the side of the bottle about the podcast coming to an end. So bottles, for those of you that are in the shop tonight, are available for you to buy and take away. There may still be some online when you get to listen to this. If not, you can just trust us that it was a great beer. That the branding is amazing, and I think we've got amazing things to come from Andy in the future.
Right, so that's it. That's the end. That's my last show. Stevie! Thank you all very much for coming out, and thanks to Jen and Glenn and their team for hosting us. Yet again, it's going to be a shame that we won't be doing these anymore.
We will miss you guys.
So
we'll meet again.
So stay tuned for September when Steve and Martin come back with Hop Onions. But until then, Stevie.
Mate, it's been the highlight of the last 4 years of my life.
And mine. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye. All right, that's it.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah, we're done. Get out.